Good morning. This is Dylan Jovine with Behind the Markets. Happy Wednesday. Today's Wednesday, June 18th. And today I want to talk about what else this week but Iran and nukes and the war in the Middle East, which I believe has a better than average shot of getting more serious. I'm glad that the market's pricing that in a little bit more. It's a big deal. If any open positions that I have, I'd be looking at this and looking for opportunities because the market might give us a couple here. Hopefully things don't get worse. One of the debates that's happening on the right among my friend group is President Trump versus Tucker Carlson, or the more realist wing of the Republican Party, which I'm part of, versus the real isolationist wing of the Republican Party. And Tucker Carlson famously has been saying, why are we involved in this? Why are we trying to stop Iran from getting nukes? And President Trump responded on Truth Social, somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now, I agree with the president 1,000% on this. Not because I think it's in our business and we should be involved in the world's policeman and all that kind of stuff. I think it's ridiculous, really. And I think most people think that's crazy. But, I look at this as a historian who understands game theory. I'm not sure Tucker Carlson can see around corners when it comes to history. He's certainly a great commentator, and he understands a lot of people where they're at, and is a great storyteller. But history, a little bit different. History tells us that if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, let's play the tape here. First of all, Iran is the state sponsor of terror. So if they actually had a nuclear weapon, they can actually give it to the Houthis, a dirty bomb, and the Houthis could basically hold hostage the Strait of Hormuz, which is crazy. You can't really let that happen. But even further than that, let's play the tape. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, what does history tell us? History tells us that what would happen is the other powers in the region would seek to balance against that, game theory, okay? So what would happen is that all of a sudden Saudi Arabia would get a nuclear weapon. And basically Egypt would want a nuclear weapon. So all of a sudden these real tin pot dictators would get nuclear weapons, and it's proliferation. So Iran is really a domino here. And I hate to even say the domino theory, but when it comes to nuclear weapons, we cannot let that happen, okay? You cannot. This is why Europe and even the Arab countries absolutely support what Israel is doing, period. Because you cannot have a situation where a terrorist regime, a revisionist regime, a regime that exports and supports and finances terror organizations that seek to mess things up for the powers that run things, and let's just be blunt about what's going on here, you cannot have that regime have nuclear weapons, because they will put how long before their terrorist sponsors get it? And even if you think the Iranian regime would be more responsible to that, do you want to have an enemy that's chants death to America every day that has nuclear weapons? Come on. What are we, stupid? We got to learn this lesson again? Hello? History tells us what happens. Again, my biggest concern is even if Iran was a responsible nuclear power, I don't want to see all the other Middle Eastern theocracies all of a sudden get nuclear weapons. The world would be much more dangerous. Our security position would be much more unstable. How long before one of those theocratic regimes got toppled and all of a sudden an Osama bin Laden type had a finger on a nuclear button? Come on. This is not logical, okay? So this is why the world really supports this. Even China. And they come out and they say, this is not good. We support Iran, sovereignty, and all this other stuff. They don't want to see a Middle East that's nuked. To them, the Middle East is their gas station. Europe, they don't want to see a Middle East get nuclear weapons, especially attached to ballistic missiles that have long ranges, because that means their security profile goes down. So there is not any thinking person who understands national security, history, and geopolitics and power politics who really said, leave it to the Iranians. Come on, that's not a real thing, okay? So I agree wholeheartedly with the president. But I'll tell you something, several countries have come out and really, in the face of this, really ramping up defense spending which is really important. And really what's so cool right now is that me and a bunch of other people who think about this, for the past 10 years, 15 years, we've been really writing and talking about the fact that the US innovation has really atrophied because you have the giant companies, the Lockheed Martins, the Boeings, and all these other guys. After the Soviet Union fell, basically, and we lowered defense spending as a percentage of GDP, all of a sudden these giants started to consolidate these smaller companies and achieve economies of scale, save money because they were chasing fewer defense dollars. But now, so we were worried that they were not innovating fast enough. And Elon Musk's SpaceX proves that vis-a-vis Boeing and a satellite company. So we were very worried that they weren't innovating fast enough. And I'll tell you something, now what we're seeing is really America starting to wake up. Churchill famously said, democracies sleep a lot, but then when they wake up, they wake up. And you could see us waking up. You could see now companies that are defense focused are starting to go public, which is great. And of course, we cover one that recently went public 6 months ago in this month's issue of Break the Wealth. But it's fabulous because finally we can start getting our hands on these pure play defense contractors that are very important. So I'm very happy about that. If I wanted a pure play defense contract, like the company we focus on in this month's issue of Break the Wealth, I have to buy like a Lockheed Martin, and the defense contractor that does, let's say, aircraft engines, which is a very big deal, air power, would be one of 50 divisions at Lockheed Martin. So even if their business grew 1,000% a year, Lockheed Martin, it's a blip on their radar screen. Now we can play the increase in defense spending with some of these companies that are going public. So I'm very, very happy I'm very happy that American innovation is starting to wake up for the defense sector in this country, because we are going to need our best and brightest minds in this country to face the China challenge. Anyway, that's all I have today. Have a wonderful Wednesday. I'll see you tomorrow.